They say power corrupts, but what if I told you, power obeys? Most people spend their lives begging to be heard, fighting to be respected, praying to be followed. But the truth is simple and cruel. People don't obey the strongest. They obey the one who understands the mind. And tonight, I'll show you the dark psychological trick that makes anyone obey you even when they think it was their own choice. In every kingdom, office, or relationship, one law reigns supreme, the law of obedience. Kings, CEO, lovers, and generals all depend on one hidden force, perceived authority. It is not strength that makes others kneel, but the illusion that resistance is pointless. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are governed by two forces, fear or self-interest." And the master manipulator learns to blend both. Why do people disobey you? Because you give them freedom to choose. You negotiate, you plead, you justify. But the obedient mind does not respond to reason, it responds to dominance of frame. The moment you act like you need compliance, you've already surrendered power. You want power, don't you? Not money, not fame power. The ability to speak and watch others fall silent. To walk into a room and feel it bend around your presence. To say something once and never have to repeat it. Every human being hungers for that kind of influence, yet most never taste it. They study communication, they memorize motivational quotes, they learn persuasion tricks, but still, their words carry no weight. They ask, they negotiate, they explain, and still people ignore them. The boss dismisses their ideas. Their partner doesn't listen. Their friends only show up when they need something. And every time it happens, they tell themselves the same lie. Maybe I just need to be nicer, smarter, more patient. No, that's not the problem. The problem isn't that you lack kindness or knowledge. The problem is that you lack leverage, because when it comes to control, reason is weak, and psychology is ruthless. In the world of power, logic doesn't make people obey you. Emotion does. Authority does. Fear does. You can't talk someone into submission, you must frame their reality until obedience feels like the only logical choice. But most people don't understand that. They try to convince others with facts and kindness, not realizing that the human mind isn't built to follow reason. It's built to follow dominance. Watch a child with a parent. The parent doesn't ask, "Would you like to go to bed?" They command, they declare. The child resists perhaps, but deep down they know who holds the frame. The one who doesn't waver wins. The one who flinches loses. This doesn't change when we grow up. Adults just become more sophisticated in how they submit. The real power problem is that you've been trained your entire life to seek approval. Society rewards obedience, not dominance. Schools teach you to raise your hand, wait your turn, follow instructions. The workplace teaches you to blend in, to be polite, to smile when you're dismissed. You've been conditioned to think that power is earned through merit, when in truth, it's seized through perception. And that's the cruel irony. The ones who hold power often aren't the smartest or the most capable. They're the ones who look like they deserve it. The ones who act as if the crown already belongs to them. The human brain is lazy. It trusts confidence more than competence. It confuses certainty with truth. So when someone behaves as though they cannot be questioned, others stop questioning. That's the first layer of dark psychology, the illusion of inevitability. People don't obey the strongest. They obey the one who seems unchallengeable. And this illusion is not born out of arrogance, but out of consistency. You cannot make others obey you if your energy screams uncertainty. Every hesitation, every over-explanation, every nervous tone tells the subconscious mind, this person doesn't lead, they follow. And so, the power problem is not that others won't listen, it's that you don't speak as though they must. You seek validation before giving instruction. You ask for permission before taking authority. You present your will as a suggestion instead of a command. You treat influence as something to be earned, when the truth is it must be assumed. In the kingdom of minds, power is not granted, it is believed into existence. The people who command obedience do not wait for respect. They act as if they already have it. This is the secret behind every leader, every manipulator, every Machiavellian mind throughout history. They understood something you do not, that people do not resist control when they believe it benefits them to obey. You think people want freedom, but they don't. They want certainty. They want someone who tells them, without doubt, what path to take. They crave the comfort of following someone who appears unshakable, and when you project that unshakable certainty, their minds stop fighting you. They start aligning with you. You see this everywhere in politics, in religion, in business, even in relationships. The one who seems sure wins, not the one who's right, not the one who's fair, the one who's sure, because the mind confuses confidence with truth. That's why the powerless remain powerless. They speak as though they hope to be heard. The powerful speak as though they expect to be obeyed. The difference is invisible, but it changes everything. So what's really stopping you from holding power? It isn't the lack of words, or strength, or status. It's that subtle, fatal addiction to approval. You've been taught that being liked is the same as being respected. It's not. Being liked is weakness disguised as virtue. Being respected is the reward for making people feel that defying you would be foolish. And the tragedy is this: you can't command both at once. You can be loved or you can be obeyed. The Machiavellian understands that love is unstable. It fades when people are no longer entertained, but obedience. Obedience endures as long as your presence feels inevitable. That's the first truth in the dark art of influence. Before you can make others obey, you must first unlearn the need to be accepted. The mind that seeks approval can never dominate. The moment you beg for agreement, you destroy the illusion of power. The moment you explain too much, you invite debate. The moment you hesitate, you grant others permission to doubt you. Power doesn't respond to begging. It responds to certainty. The music swells, a haunting undertone carrying through as the narrator's voice turns firm, commanding. The power problem is not about getting others to follow. It's about transforming yourself into someone who never needs to ask. You must become the gravity in every room, the force that pulls attention without demanding it, that commands respect without requesting it. Because when your presence alone alters the behavior of others, when silence from you carries more weight than words from anyone else, that's when obedience begins to take shape. There's a secret force that moves people, a lever hidden deep in the mind. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It whispers just the right thought at the right moment, and suddenly resistance dissolves. That lever is not logic, not fear, not even desire. It's something darker. It's the illusion of inevitability. The invisible power that makes people feel as though obedience was their own decision all along. The truth is, human beings hate to feel controlled, but they love to feel guided. They despise orders, but they crave direction. The mind doesn't want to be dominated. It wants to believe it's choosing the right path. And the invisible lever works by planting that illusion, by shaping perception so subtly that they walk exactly where you want them to, while believing they arrived there freely. When you tell someone what to do directly, they resist. When you make them feel it was their idea, they obey. That's the beauty of psychological control. It's invisible, elegant, quiet. The greatest commanders never shout. They simply frame reality in such a way that any other choice feels unnatural. You must understand, the human mind obeys two masters: comfort and certainty. People will reject the truth if it makes them uncomfortable. and they will embrace a lie if it gives them peace. The invisible lever exploits that weakness. It makes your command feel safe, familiar, inevitable. When people believe that your path leads to comfort or clarity, they will follow it even against their own logic. It's not hypnosis. It's not magic. It's psychology at its most ruthless. It's the manipulation of the frame. Every conversation has a frame, an invisible boundary that defines who holds authority. When you speak as though your version of reality is the only one that exists, you set the frame. And once your frame dominates theirs, their mind submits without realizing it. They stop evaluating your words and start living inside them. That's when control begins, not when they understand you, but when they stop questioning you. The invisible lever works best through assumption, not persuasion. The moment you start persuading, you admit that your idea can be doubted. But when you assume agreement, the mind instinctively complies. Humans mirror certainty. It's ancient psychology. The brain evolved to follow the most confident signal, because in primitive times, certainty meant survival. The tribe followed the one who didn't hesitate. So, when you speak with unshakable authority, the subconscious remembers that instinct. Follow the confident one. Think of the invisible lever as gravity. It doesn't push, it doesn't pull, it simply exists, and everything bends around it. True power never begs for attention, it demands alignment. People will obey you not because they fear you, but because it feels easier than opposing you. You become the path of least resistance. The key is to master your presence, your tone, your rhythm. When you speak with measured calm, the mind feels drawn in. When you pause deliberately, people lean closer. Silence, when controlled, is louder than any argument. Every word you choose becomes a thread, weaving a web of inevitability around your listener. You're not arguing, you're narrating their destiny, and here's where most fail. They think control means confrontation. It doesn't. The invisible lever avoids conflict. The moment someone feels attacked, their ego activates and the door to influence slams shut. But when they feel understood, when you echo their thoughts, mirror their values, validate their emotions, they lower their defenses. And that's when you slip the lever into place. You align with their desires, you reflect their fears, you show them the path that satisfies both. They think they're moving toward pleasure or away from pain, but what they're really doing is moving toward you. They're aligning with your will, one subconscious step at a time. That's the art, making obedience feel natural. When your command feels like a solution to their discomfort, they follow. When your authority feels like certainty in a chaotic world, they surrender. That's how religions are built, how empires rise, how entire societies obey without question. Not through violence, through belief. The invisible lever doesn't live in your words, it lives in how you deliver them. The moment you stop seeking approval, your energy changes. You no longer speak to convince. You speak to declare. You no longer hope to be agreed with. You assume it. The human brain is wired to seek leadership, and the one who acts like a leader becomes one, whether or not they have the title. When you tell someone, you will do this, they hesitate. When you say, here's what happens next, they nod. That single shift from command to inevitability transforms resistance into compliance. It's not domination, it's orchestration. You are directing the story of their perception, and they play their part willingly. You can feel it when someone masters this. Their presence is calm, their tone is measured, their confidence feels absolute. They never rush to justify themselves because justification implies doubt. They never argue because argument implies equality. They simply speak reality into existence, and others adapt. The invisible lever turns language into law. To control others, you must first master how they feel around you. When they feel safe, they trust. When they feel certain, they obey. The invisible lever hides in emotion, not in intellect. People rarely remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel while you said it. Make them feel protected in your authority, and they'll follow you anywhere. And that's the secret few understand. Power doesn't come from being louder, smarter, or more forceful. It comes from creating an atmosphere where your dominance feels inevitable. Because once the human mind believes, your authority is natural. Power is never taken by force. It is given, and the cruelest truth of all is that people give it willingly to the one who seems destined to have it. The Machiavellian mind understands this. He knows that to command others, you don't need to control their actions. You need to shape their perception. Once you control what people believe about you, you no longer need to fight for obedience. They will deliver it themselves, wrapped in loyalty and admiration. The secret of the Machiavellian mechanism is that people don't obey reality, they obey their interpretation of it, and that interpretation can be engineered. You don't have to be powerful to be obeyed, you only need to appear inevitable. You only need to become the image that people expect to follow. Once they believe you deserve power, they behave as though you already have it. Think about it. Every leader who's ever ruled the masses began not with armies, but with belief. Caesar, Napoleon, politicians, even modern influencers, they all played the same psychological game. They didn't ask for control. They created a presence so certain, so composed, so unshakably confident that others felt smaller in comparison. And the smaller you feel next to someone, the more naturally you begin to obey. This is the Machiavellian mechanism at work, the art of engineering belief. The mind does not follow power, it follows the appearance of power. If you can make others believe that you are the source of certainty, the provider of order, the one who sees what they cannot, they will stop questioning your motives. They will start seeking your direction. It begins with how you carry yourself. Every glance, every word, every pause builds your aura. Power speaks less, but its silence weighs more. A Machiavellian doesn't rush to fill empty space with explanations, because explanations are for the powerless. The powerful let the silence do the work. They know that mystery breeds respect. The less people know about your motives, the more they assume they must be grand. The mechanism thrives on distance. Never reveal too much, never be too available. Familiarity destroys reverence. You must remain close enough to influence, yet distant enough to mystify. When people can't fully read you, they fill in the gaps with their own imagination, and imagination always paints you greater than reality ever could. That's how kings are made. That's how legends are born. Power doesn't demand attention. It draws it quietly. Watch the eyes in any room, they always return to the person who seems most self-contained. That's the secret energy of command. Calmness under chaos. The one who doesn't flinch becomes the anchor, the psychological center. People crave stability, and when they sense it in you, they start orbiting around you. Not because you force them to, but because your presence feels safer than their own uncertainty. If this awakens something inside you, if you're ready to stop asking for respect and start commanding it, then don't let this moment fade. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and step deeper into the art of power. Every week, I'll show you more of the hidden psychology that the powerful use to control perception, influence minds, and make obedience feel effortless. Leave a comment below and tell me what's the one situation in your life where you wish you had more control. Your story might become the next lesson. And remember, knowledge is useless without execution. Watch again, take notes, Apply what you've learned, because the ones who understand psychology rule quietly, while the rest obey loudly. Now choose which one you'll be. That's the Machiavellian mechanism, the conversion of perception into control. But remember to use it. You must kill the impulse to prove yourself. The weak want to be understood. The powerful want to be believed. When you explain, you place yourself beneath the judgment of others. When you state, you elevate yourself above it. Every time you justify your choices, you whisper to the world that your authority is fragile. But when you act with conviction, without apology, others project meaning onto your actions. They search for reasons, and in doing so, they create the illusion that your will carries divine purpose. The Machiavellian never asks, "Do you understand me?" He says, "This is how it will be." His strength lies not in arrogance, but in certainty. He doesn't demand obedience, he inspires surrender, because people are not drawn to force, they're drawn to inevitability. The more inevitable you appear, the more natural obedience feels. There is a delicate precision to this game. If you act too openly ambitious, they will resist you. If you appear too humble, they will ignore you. The art is balance, enough dominance to command attention, enough restraint to seem composed. A Machiavellian controls his image the way a sculptor controls marble. Every gesture intentional, every word calculated, every silence sharpened to perfection. You do not need to raise your voice when your energy already commands the room. You do not need to argue when people fear disappointing you. This is the quiet supremacy of psychological control, the ability to guide without touching, to command without speaking, to rule without ever appearing to rule. And yet, beneath it all, the mechanism remains invisible. Those who obey you must never feel manipulated. The moment they realize they're being controlled, the illusion collapses. So, you disguise your control as understanding, your dominance as empathy, your manipulation as destiny. You make people believe they are acting from their own will, while every choice they make leads exactly where you wanted it to go. That's how empires endure. That's how kings remain unchallenged. They don't chain their people, they chain their perception. They make obedience feel righteous, even noble. The Machiavellian doesn't crave affection, he craves alignment. He doesn't want followers, he wants believers, because a follower can leave, but a believer will defend you, justify you, even die for you, because they've made your will a part of their own identity. And that is the ultimate form of control, when your commands no longer sound like orders, but like truth. The mechanism feeds on repetition and consistency. Once you've established yourself as the axis of certainty, you must never break character. Even when you're uncertain, appear composed. Even when you fail, reframe it as strategy. The perception of unshakable control must never die, because the moment people see your cracks, their faith begins to fade. The Machiavellian mechanism is not about deceiving others. It's about understanding what they need to believe to keep their world stable and becoming that belief. People obey the image that protects their sense of order. So you become that order. You become the steady hand, the calm voice, the one who seems to always know what comes next. And once they depend on your certainty, you no longer need to convince or demand anything. Their obedience becomes instinct. Their loyalty becomes reflex. Their surrender becomes a choice they think they made on their own. Now that you understand how power breathes, how perception becomes control, it's time to learn how to wield it. Theory is nothing without weaponry, and the mind, your mind, is the deadliest weapon of all. The Machiavellian does not wait for opportunities, he creates them. He does not chase obedience, he commands it through presence, tone, and certainty. Power must be performed before it can be possessed. When you enter a room, the performance begins. Every movement, every pause, every breath must carry intention. Most people scatter their energy, fidgeting, over-explaining, trying to be liked. You must do the opposite. You anchor yourself in stillness. You let silence do the talking. When others rush to fill the void with nervous chatter, you let the silence stretch, because whoever is more comfortable with silence controls it. Power is not in what you say, it's in what you withhold. People obey presence before they obey words. They read your expressions before they listen to your arguments. If your energy signals doubt, no command will land. But if your energy radiates certainty, your words become law. The practical weapon of control begins here in the mastery of self. Before you can rule others, you must first rule your emotions. Calm is command. The mind instinctively follows the person who stays composed under pressure. In every argument, every negotiation, every confrontation, the one who remains unshaken becomes the authority. The world is addicted to chaos, and when you remain tranquil amid disorder, people instinctively turn toward you for stability. That's how obedience begins, not from dominance, but from calm certainty. Confidence, when genuine, doesn't need to announce itself. It's quiet, it's grounded, it's absolute. The moment you try to prove it, you lose it. People don't obey confidence that screams, they obey confidence that whispers. The Machiavellian understands this and never wastes energy on proving what is already obvious. He speaks little because each word carries gravity, but presence alone is not enough. The true practical weapon lies in your ability to mirror belief. You must learn to reflect back what others already want to see. People trust those who make them feel understood. If you mirror their values, their desires, their fears, they begin to see you as one of them, even when you are subtly guiding them in the direction you choose. You're not forcing obedience, you're engineering alignment. They follow because it feels natural, not because it feels demanded. Every mind craves two things, validation and direction. Give them the first, and they'll accept the second. Make people feel seen, and they'll let you lead them anywhere. The practical weapon of influence lies not in control, but in the illusion of partnership. You let them believe they're choosing, when in reality they're following. Assume obedience, never ask for it. When you speak, remove the question marks from your tone. Replace uncertainty with declaration. Maybe we should do this. Becomes here's what happens next. The difference is small, but it's everything. The mind hears tone before it processes words. If your delivery carries hesitation, your authority dies before your sentence ends. But if your voice carries inevitability, people comply before they've even had time to think. And yet, the greatest weapon is restraint. The powerful do not chase control in every moment. They pick their battles. They know when to strike and when to stay silent. The more selective your influence, the more powerful it becomes. When you speak rarely but decisively, every word carries impact. When you command constantly, you dilute your power. The key is precision, timing your influence so that when you move, the world moves with you. There's also a darker truth behind this weapon. Power demands perception management, not only of others, but of yourself. You must protect your aura of certainty at all costs. You cannot afford emotional leaks. Anger, frustration, insecurity, they're cracks in your armor. Once others see those cracks, they will test them. The Machiavellian understands that emotion is a luxury reserved for the powerless. Control is the privilege of the dominant. That doesn't mean suppressing your humanity, it means mastering it. When anger rises, slow your breath. When fear whispers, act anyway. When doubt creeps in, remember, hesitation is contagious, but so is confidence. People mirror your emotional state. If you show panic, they feel panic. If you show control, they feel safe. And people obey those who make them feel safe. Use power sparingly. When you overuse control, you breed resistance. The greatest manipulators make people believe they're free. That's the genius of the practical weapon, making obedience feel voluntary. Let others feel ownership of your ideas. Let them repeat your words as their own. Once your thoughts live in their mouths, your control becomes invisible. That's the art of subtle dominance, planting your will inside the minds of others, so they defend it as if it were their own. Certainty, calm, reflection, restraint. These are the 4 pillars of practical influence. They are not tricks or theatrics. They are habits of power. You build them every day in how you walk, how you breathe, how you hold your silence. The Machiavellian doesn't announce his control, he radiates it. He doesn't demand respect. He becomes too composed to be disrespected. In every encounter, remember that people are constantly searching for someone to follow. The modern world is loud, uncertain, and full of noise. Most people don't want to think, they want to feel secure. When you become that security, obedience follows naturally. They will seek your approval, your validation, your guidance, and they will disguise it as loyalty. Power, in its purest form, is not about dominance. It's about control of atmosphere, shaping the emotional weather in any room you enter. When you can regulate the temperature of others, calm their fears, awaken their ambition, command their respect, you hold the invisible reins of influence. Because once you can make people feel the way you want them to feel, you can make them do what you want them to do. That is the practical weapon, power so refined that it never needs to announce itself. Control so effortless, it feels like gravity. It's not about appearing strong. It's about becoming inevitable, about existing in such a way that defiance feels unnatural, even unthinkable. Because when your presence defines the reality around you, when others instinctively adjust their behavior to align with your will, you no longer need to fight for obedience. Power has always been a game played in silence, a dance between perception and control. Those who understand it don't shout commands, they whisper certainties. They don't demand obedience, they inspire it. The dark psychology of influence isn't about cruelty or deceit. It's about understanding the one truth everyone else ignores, that the human mind craves structure, authority, and belief more than freedom. You've seen the pattern now. Power doesn't live in strength. It lives in perception, the invisible lever that shapes minds, the Machiavellian mechanism that engineers belief, the practical weapon that makes obedience feel like choice. These are not tricks, they are reflections of human nature, ancient and unchanging. Those who master them rise. Those who ignore them serve. Remember, control is not about forcing people to submit. It's about making them want to align with you. Influence, when wielded with precision, becomes invisible. It doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like gravity. The more natural your authority seems, the more inevitable your power becomes. In the end, every empire, every relationship, every hierarchy is built on one truth: someone leads and someone follows. The question is never whether people will obey. It's who they will obey, the one who hesitates, or the one who commands without asking. You already know the answer. So take this knowledge and wear it like armor. Speak less, observe more, command through calm, and move as if the world has already agreed to your will. Because in the silent game of influence, the one who controls perception controls everything. If this awakens something inside you, if you're ready to stop asking for respect and start commanding it, then don't let this moment fade. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and step deeper into the art of power. Every week, I'll show you more of the hidden psychology that the powerful use to control perception, influence minds, and make obedience feel effortless. Leave a comment below and tell me what's the one situation in your life where you wish you had more control. Your story might become the next lesson. And remember, knowledge is useless without execution. Watch again, take notes, apply what you've learned, because the ones who understand psychology rule quietly, while the rest obey loudly. Now, choose which one you'll be.